Good morning and welcome to what is it, episode 15 now of the Driver's Debrief. I'm your host, Nicholas Patty, on a special Tuesday episode of the Driver's Debrief. As you can see by my hat, I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and for the first time, I got to fly to Pennsylvania and see my first ever NFL game, my first Pittsburgh Steelers game. They beat the Browns, so that's great. But yesterday was a travel day. I was working from the road. I wasn't able to get home in time to record this episode, so we're making up for it today, which I'm glad we actually waited till today to do it, because we have some breaking news this morning about the Ford Mustang GTD doing incredible things. So we'll dive into that in our car corner section, and then we'll go down into the cool down room with all of our motorsports transfer team news, signing, all sorts of stuff. And then we're going to be covering the Sao Paulo E-Prix Formula One Abu Dhabi season finale, and then F1 Academy wrapped up in Abu Dhabi, so we're going to cover that as well. I think next week we're probably going to do a season review of Formula One. Obviously, there's no racing next weekend, so we'll probably do that, talk about some more car news. Obviously, there's always motorsports news, but in terms of the thrust, the topic of the episode, it's going to be a kind of an F1 review or a recap, so that'll be fun. But before we jump into all of that, make sure to follow on Rumble, on YouTube, or here on X. We upload these videos after the live stream every single Monday, or in this case Tuesday, on YouTube and Rumble. So make sure to follow, subscribe, like the videos over there. Or if you want to stay tuned with kind of everything that's going on each and every day, follow right here on X. A lot of this news I post and repost about during the week. I then compile it towards the end of the week and put it in this episode. So if you want to stay up to date with everything across all motorsports all the time, make sure to follow on X at Drivers Debrief. All right, so let's start off with Car Corner. Let's just jump into the breaking news. And by breaking news, I mean like an hour ago this was released and reported on by Road and Track and everybody else. The Ford Mustang GTD lapped the ring in 6 minutes 57 seconds, making it the sixth fastest production car of all time. Sixth fastest of all time. So let's and I'm gonna pull up Wikipedia here, bear with me. Let's go through our top laps. Let me see if they've added it in here yet. No, okay, they haven't. So they said it was the fifth fastest performance car, but I don't know if that's entirely correct. But that's not neither here or there. Here's what the what the hell, is that true? Wow. Okay. Well, we'll see. I don't know how accurate this is, but let's go with it. Okay. We have first the Mercedes AMG 1, the 911 GT2 RS, the Mercedes AMG GT1 Black Series, or Mercedes AMG GT Black Series, the 911 GT3 RS, the Aventador, the GT2 RS, the Radical SR8, Lamborghini Huracan Performante, Mercedes AMG GT Black Series, 911 GT3 RS, Radical SR8, another GT3. So it was, I guess, the same test, but they did it over and over and over and over and over. And then the Porsche 918 Spyder at a 657. So the Mustang GTD ran the same time as the Porsche 918, which is ludicrous. Moving on from that, we have a new car to talk about. It's nothing particularly exciting, but it is one of those further commitments towards EVs, so we got to talk about it. It is the new Audi A6 E-Tron. It is basically a Porsche Taycan competitor. It's slightly larger, slightly more comfortable, less kind of performance oriented. For the base model, they are 62,000 pounds. This is from the UK. I'm reading this from. so more expensive, let's just say that. But if you go for the fully equipped Edition 1 model in Avant form, which is a kind of a wagon, an upgraded form, with the e-tron Quattro drivetrain, you're looking at 85,000 pounds. If you upgrade to the sportier S1, the car is into six-figure territory. This is all from T3.com. Audi says apparently it's the most aerodynamic road car they've ever created. They have obviously the same kind of trick that everybody likes, where you can go into settings and have the lights do all sorts of crazy stuff. The car has car can park itself, yada yada yada. It does have, it was 466 miles of range. So that's massively impressive, especially for a vehicle that's going to weigh more because it's an EV. That's great range. There's a regenerative braking system, and that's obviously something that technology you get from Formula One. And Audi claims that for 95% of regular driving, the Audi A6 will use regen instead of brake discs and pads to come to a stop. So there's potential money savings when it comes to driving. So let's go to some of the stats. It accelerates from 0 to 62 miles an hour in 6 seconds and has a top speed of 130 miles an hour. So it is not fast by any stretch. It's really just a comfort sedan. Let's see. So the A6 Quattro, okay. So that was the base model's performance. The A6 E-Tron Performance does 62 miles an hour in 5.4 seconds with the same top speed. The A6 E-Tron Quattro does 0 to 60 in 4.5, same top speed. Then the S6 E-Tron has a 0 to 60 reduced in 3.9 seconds, and the top speed is 150 miles an hour. So Audi obviously leaning into the EV direction of some markets more. I know on Porsche's side, they've recorded Taycan numbers are down almost precipitously. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not the move to EVs, one, pays off, but then the further commitment to EVs, they may have had their moment in the sun. I guess that's the biggest thing. Skoda also has announced that the Octavia, one of their decade-long fan favorites and consumer favorites, is no longer going to be offered as a plug-in hybrid as it has for the last few years. It is going to be gas only. So on the flip side of that conversation with Audi A6, other brands are going back to not even hybrid, just fuel. So obviously we'll stay tuned and we'll see kind of how that breaks down. Moving on into the cool down room. Enough about cars. Let's get into racing. European Le Mans Series in 2025 features the return of Ginetta. Team DKR Engineering is going to be running several of their Ginetta LMP3 cars. And European Le Mans Series in 2025 has 44 cars with 10 manufacturers across 6 races. Triple Eight Racing is set to miss the Bathurst 12-hour in GT. Mercedes has announced that they're going to be contesting the 2025 ELMS Championship. ELMS, for those of you that don't know, is European Le Mans Series. So it's like a baby version of World Endurance Championship, but on the regional level. So Mercedes has not run in Europe in years. Mercedes has not run at Le Mans since 1999, and they're doing both this year in 2025. Andy Lally, American sports car veteran, is announcing his retirement, and he will be the new president of Trans Am Racing. Andy Lally is someone that I grew up watching, drive 997 Porsche Cup cars, racing for TRG, racing all sorts of stuff, Magnus Racing, and he's won it all. He's won Sebring, he's won Daytona, he's won Petit Le Mans. So Andy Lally has been running with, was it still Magnus? I think it was still Magnus in an Aston Martin GT3 car. but we'll miss Andy Lawley. Obviously, he still will be around the paddock, a new paddock, the Trans Am paddock, and in a very different capacity. But Andy Lawley was always a great driver. And on his Instagram announcing his retirement, you'll see an outpouring of driver. Hey, it was not support, but it was an honor competing against you, and we enjoyed racing. Blah 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 blah. This is probably. Oh, wait. Nope. I was on the wrong bullet point. So big news, but this is probably the second biggest news. But Michelle Gatting becomes a Porsche factory driver, and Iron Dames has joined Manthey Racing. So last episode 14, we talked about how Iron Dames as the organization is moving to Manthey Racing rather than Iron Lynx running their cars. And so they're bringing over their all-female driver lineup. But separate from that, in addition to that, Michelle Gatting is getting a factory ride. I'm going to adjust my blinds here. She is becoming a factory driver for Porsche Motorsport. So congratulations to her. She's been running, obviously, with Iron Dames and Lamborghinis, but they were in Porsches before that in the RSR. They had success in World Endurance Championship in the RSR. Not so much in the Lamborghini since then. And so it'll be cool to see them being a factory Porsche team. So yeah, that's awesome. Okay, now this is the biggest news. The Genesis hypercar, the GTP competitor, has been unveiled, and it looks smoking hot. So if you haven't seen photos of it, definitely make sure to check it out. But here's what we know so far. So it'll compete in IMSA in 2027. Genesis Magma Racing, which is the team that Hyundai and Genesis is forming, it's their factory team, is going to be running an LMP2 entry with EDX Sport in 2025 ELMS as kind of a dry run of getting the logistics and the team flow and structure and all that sort of stuff buttoned up before the 2027 IMSA season. That car is going to have Jamie Chadwick and Logan Sargent driving. Two super cool opportunities for two talented drivers that I don't think any of us probably would have expected running LMP2. So on one hand, you have the story with Genesis, but on the other hand, you have the story of those drivers getting an LMP2 seat, and we'll see how they do in a very, very, very tightly contested LMP2 ELMS series. But here's the two factory drivers we have confirmed by Genesis. Oh, excuse me. That they had at launch Pippo Durrani and Andre Lauderer. So I'm gonna have to surrender my hopes of Pippo Durrani racing for Cadillac in Formula One. He's going to Genesis in World Endurance Championship, but I will enjoy getting to see some Pippo Durrani terrorism in the World Endurance Championship field. And Andre Lauderer leaving Porsche after having been dropped from Porsche. He's moving to Genesis, so hopefully that doesn't bite Porsche. And then, you know what? Ryan Hunter-Reay has been announced as driving the number 23 for Dreyer Reinbold Cusick Motorsports for the 2025 Indy 500, with Jack Harvey driving the other car for the team, being his teammate. Toyota announces that 2025 is their last year in NHRA competition. Tony Stewart confirms he will be racing in Top Fuel dragsters next year after the birth of their little boy Dominic, as Leah Pruitt stays home to be a mama. In the NASCAR news, Chevrolet rebrands the Camaro designs on their Cup cars from Camaro to just Chevrolet. So the design of the car is identical. It will be a Camaro, but not for legal reasons. It'll be a Chevrolet. My two thoughts are, if all the cars are tube frame cars with carbon, or it doesn't even matter, whatever the bodywork is around it, whether it was just like rolled out bodywork in Gen 6 cars to the carbon fiber composite stuff in the Gen 7, none of them are real cars. They don't share anything in common with the road car. So I don't think they should have to look like the road car. Well, but NASCAR is supposed to be it's stock car racing. It's supposed to be stock. Right. So, but build them off of stock cars. Like in the 80s. Have them, hey, look at that. I don't know why there's fireworks going off. but I presume something happened on X. So, all right, cool. That was so random. But yeah, I don't understand why we're worried about the stock car delineation when it comes to NASCAR, and I have an Echo. But yeah, I don't understand why people are worried about that, especially when you consider the fact that they're not built off road cars. They don't have anything in common with road cars. There's no point in trying to continue this farce that they are somehow related to the street cars. Let's move into some more news. Tyler Allen becomes the crew chief for Ty Gibbs in the number 54 car with Joe Gibbs Racing. Nina Gademan has been announced as an Alpine driver in F1 Academy for 2025. You'll know her. She does sim racing and stuff across Twitch and everything else. Has done open wheel stuff over in Europe, and now she's getting her chance in F1 Academy. 2026 is the final year of the Dutch GP and Zandvoort for Formula One. Apparently, there's a 1-year extension after this year into 2026. I don't know why. I guess the organizers are just tired. They don't want to do it anymore. But I can guarantee you this is the largest single event for Dutch tourism. So I don't understand why the country wouldn't want it. I don't understand why the race organizers wouldn't want it. I don't understand why F1 wouldn't want it. And so far, I haven't heard that any of them don't want it. It just seems to be a mutual, we're just gonna, we don't want to. This is also new news, as in today and yesterday. So postseason testing has begun for Formula One. Carlos Sainz is testing his Williams. His time at Williams testing starts with him being at the top of the tables ahead of Ferrari Charles Leclerc. Now, obviously, it's testing. It doesn't mean that much, but man, would that be sweet. Team Cupra Kiro in Formula E has announced their partnership ahead of the season opener. The clothing brand Hackett continues their partnership with Formula E as the official apparel provider. And the Safari Rally in Kenya has been set to cover more kilometers than ever as part of an evolutionary revamp. Let's move into Formula E because we were just talking about it. So last week we got the final confirmations of the field. So we have some teams to go through. We have Jaguar TCS Racing, Tag Heuer Porsche, DS Penske, Nissan Andretti, Envision Racing, Neon McLaren, Maserati MSG Racing, Lola Yamaha ABT, Mahindra and Kiro Race Company. Obviously, that's the Cupra Kiro now. So let's go through the drivers. Jaguar has Mitch Evans and Nick Cassidy. Tag Heuer has returning champion Pascal Wehrlein and Antonio Felix da Costa. DS Penske has Jean-Eric Verne and Maximilian Gunther. Nissan has Oliver Rowland and Norman Nato. Andretti has Jake Dennis and Nico Mueller. Envision has Robin Freins and Sebastian Buemi. Neon McLaren has Sam Bird and Taylor Bernard. Maserati has Stoffel Van Dorn and Jake Hughes. Lola Yamaha ABT has Lucas Degrassi and Zane Maloney. Mahindra has Nick DeVries and Eduardo Matara. And Kiro Cupra has Dan Ticktum and David Beckham. No, not the David Beckham you're thinking of. So that was the grid ahead of the launch of Season 11 at the Sao Paulo E-Prix. Let's go ahead and run through these results. In last place with a did not start, Robin Freins. With a DNF, Nico Mueller. Another DNF, Jake Hughes. Lucas Degrassi with a DNF. And Jake Dennis with a DNF. David Beckham finished, but was classified down at the bottom behind Pascal Wehrlein, who was a DNF as well. In 15th, you have Nick Cassidy with Jaguar. 14th, Oliver Rowland with Nissan. 13th, Norman Nato with Nissan. 12th, Zane Maloney with Lola. 11th, Maximilian Gunther with DS Penske. 10th, Stoffel Van Dorn with Maserati. 9th, Jean-Eric Verne with DS Penske. 8th, Dan Ticktum with Kiro Cupra. 7th, Sebastian Buemi with Envision. 6th, Nick DeVries with Mahindra. 5th, Eduardo Mortara with Mahindra. 4th, Sam Bird with McLaren. 3rd, Taylor Bernard with McLaren. 2nd was Antonio Felix da Costa with Porsche. And he had the fastest lap of the race. And then in first place, winning the initial result this season, was Mitch Evans with Jaguar TCS Racing. Pretty dramatic accidents and scenes with one of the drivers. I didn't get to watch the race. I didn't get to watch any of these races this weekend for the aforementioned reason. But that was Sao Paulo. Let's look ahead at the other races that Formula E has coming up. Formula E has Mexico City, then 2 races at Jeddah, and then Miami, and then 2 races at Monaco, 2 races in Tokyo, 2 races in Shanghai, Jakarta, 2 races in Berlin, and then to finish the season in July of next year, they have 2 races in London. So we will be covering Formula E as it happens throughout the season. I intended to last season, didn't listen. The podcast started over. We were halfway through the season. We had a lot to deal with, but we'll cover it this upcoming season. Now let's move into F1 Academy. So Abby Pulling, who was champion last week and then got it revoked because then they added a race to this weekend's Abu Dhabi, is still champion. She won race 1 and 2, securing the championship with Ferrari Junior driver Maya Weug. I don't know how to pronounce that. She won race 3. So let's go into the standings for the series. You have a lot of drivers at the bottom who didn't get any races. Al-Khabaisi in 15th, Lovenfoss in 14th, Edgar in 13th, Nobles in 12th, De Hoyce in 11th, Houseman in 10th, Schreiner in 9th, Leah Block in 8th, Bustamante in 7th, Chambers in 6th, Al-Khabaisi in 5th, Marti in 4th, that Voig, again, I don't know how to say it, I'm sorry, in 3rd, Dorian Pin in 2nd, and Abby Pulling in 1st. And that was across Jeddah, Miami, Barcelona, Zandvoort, Singapore, Lusail, and Yas Marina. So there are your standings for F1 Academy. And I think there was something announced. I would have to double check. I think the field is nearly doubling in size. I'm going to see if I can pull that up real quick. Also, Yuki Tsunoda's testing at Red Bull right now. Just thought I'd, mention that. Okay, so it's expanding to 18 cars in 2025 as High Tech Grand Prix joins the championship with 2 full-time entries, and they'll also take on the wildcard entry at every event. So the field will be getting bigger. So that's good for the series, good for the sport. Moving into Formula One, the finale of a climactic, dramatic season comes to a close. So let's go through the results. So we had DNFs with Bottas, Colapinto, and Sergio Perez. Shocker. Our results: Kevin Magnussen in 16th, Jack Doohan in 15th, Lance Stroll 14th, Guan Yu Zhou 13th, Yuki Tsunoda 12th, Albon 11th, Piastri 10th, Fernando Alonso getting more points on the season in 9th, Nico Hulkenberg in 8th, Pierre Gasly in 7th, Max Verstappen in 6th, George Russell 5th, Lewis Hamilton 4th, Charles Leclerc 3rd, Carlos Sainz in his final race for Ferrari in 2nd, and Lando Norris, after his runner-up season, finishing 1st in the race. This secured the Constructors' Championship for McLaren with 666 points. I don't know what else to tell you. So let's go through the final Constructors' results as well. We had Sauber in 10th, Williams in 9th, V-Carb in 8th, Haas in 7th, narrowly missing out on Alpine in 6th, Aston Martin in 5th, Mercedes 4th, Red Bull 3rd, Ferrari 2nd, and McLaren 1st. And like I said, we'll go through the kind of full season F1 recap next weekend, where we kind of talk about themes, battles, highlights of drama, things going on like that, what we can look forward to next year. We may do our preseason predictions again this year. I was off drastically ahead of this year. I said Fernando was going to be world champion. Didn't quite turn out, but we're going to try to predict next season and everything that's going on then. So next episode will be a fun episode. I may do that. I'll probably do that Sunday afternoon. Have a few beers, have a little bit of fun. But that all being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to conclude this short episode of the Driver's Debrief. Looking forward what's next for motorsports. We have postseason testing in F1. We have the Mexico City E-Prix January 11th, and then mid-January we have the Roar Before the 24 and Rolex 24 at Daytona qualifying. That is all coming up after the holidays, but we're not taking a break through the holidays. We're going to be coming at you with more episodes. We're going to have a special guest interview with a current Formula Regional and former Formula 4 driver and friend of mine, so stay tuned for that. We're going to try to do that in studio, and by in studio I mean not this guest bedroom. It'll probably be a different venue, so stay tuned for that. But ladies and gentlemen, that has done it for episode 15 of the Driver's Debrief. If you want to stay up to date on all of the motorsports news coming out of the realm of professional driving each and every day, make sure to follow on X at Driver's Debrief. Make sure on YouTube and on Rumble to follow and subscribe, like the video, and comment below what you want to see going into the slow season when it comes to motorsports and the holidays, if you're even going to be watching anything at all, because we're going to be spending time with family and loved ones. So I hope everybody has a safe, blessed holidays, Merry Christmas, and I will see you all very soon for episode 16 of the Driver's Debrief. We'll see you next time.